Welcome to class. We are going to continue our discussion of external analysis. I'm going to teach you today about a couple more frameworks that we use for industry analysis. We are going to discuss the competitive environment from the perspective of Porter's five forces, which you will use again, and again in this class. So make sure you learn it. I have some extra resources there in Moodle for you to look at if you have any difficulties. And then we're also going to use the industry life cycle framework. Just a little bit about Porter's five forces. The book does a nice job describing it in the chapter in a very concise manner. The latest revision of Michael Porter's article that is referred to in a video we're going to watch where Michael Porter discusses that article. That is available to you as a recommended but not required reading in Moodle. And then finally, there is a worksheet that was developed by Purdue University's Extension Service, really targeting agricultural producers. And in this case, the example in the worksheet is of a winery, and it asks some very straightforward questions to apply the Porter's five forces. So if you find you're struggling with applying the Porter's five forces or in applying it to the industry that you're studying for your project, I encourage you to pull out that worksheet. So we conduct industry analysis for two reasons. One, we want to determine how attractive is an industry. So imagine you are an entrepreneur or a corporation looking at entering into a new industry. And this will help you figure out, is this a generally profitable industry or is this a generally unprofitable industry that we'd like to stay out of? But sometimes you don't get to pick your industry. So the second reason that we conduct an industry analysis is to understand the structures within that industry that affect profitability and to try to figure out how those are changing over time to be able to adjust or control for or put in structures that help us, our firm, perform better given the overall structure that affects the profitability of the industry. One, just to accept or understand how different industries have different base levels or average levels of profitability, you can see from this slide, and this information was pulled in September, comparing just the retail industry to the retail drug, so retail apparel to retail drug industries. And you can see that the retail apparel has a ROA, return on assets, of on average 13.23%, which is kind of surprising when you think about the difficulty that retail has been having given the trend towards online shopping. But then within that average, you can see vastly different ROAs. So Kohl's at 6.53% versus JCPenney's, which has been really struggling with less than 1% average return on assets. So what we see in the retail apparel industry is that you have kind of within the brick and mortar space, the real value propositions such as TJ Maxx and Kohl's are still doing quite well. And then the high-end differentiated such as Nordstrom's and Saks Fifth Avenue are still doing quite well. But the stores that try to be department stores that offer everything, such as Sears and JCPenney's, they're just not doing as well, even though the overall industry attractiveness looks better than what they're experiencing. So that's their particular place that they're situated within those frameworks. Now, if we look at retail drugs, you can see that the average is 5.82%. Walgreens has a slightly better ROA than Rite Aid, but both those companies are very close. And actually, both of those companies are affected by their growth strategies. They have been acquiring, either remodeling existing buildings or building new retail sites to try to dominate that retail drug market. Now to discuss Porter's five forces. As you can see, this is a picture of the entire five forces. We will discuss each of these one by one, but I want to point out a couple of things. First, Porter's five forces analysis is applied to an industry, not a company, an industry. You apply it to the industry as a whole, and then you think about how those structures impact your particular company or companies that are similar to yours within the industry. Also, for whatever reason, my students tend to forget about the force in the middle, intensity of rivalry among existing competitors. Please don't forget about that. It is often argued that it is the most important force for impacting the overall profitability of an industry. So now you're going to watch a video. It's an interview with Michael Porter discussing his framework and his article, and then we will continue our discussion after the video.